Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Mindful Ramadan, transformed by the light, inspiring stories of converts. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Wadud and Brother Peter.
Walaikum
Walaikum
salam.
salam.
Great to see you. It's been
Alhamdulillah.
great.
Peter, you've been an inspiration to me as I got into this space of entrepreneurship. And I've mentioned that to you in the past. Peter has been, mashallah, a beautiful advisor, friend, and also, mashallah, his family. I was very lucky and honored to meet his wife at one of the retreats in Indonesia back in 2018. And alhamdulillah, she's been a great supporter and she's been encouraging our work, playing some of our work in her home. And so it's beautiful to see, Peter, your journey. And for our audience here, I want to introduce Peter, this heart-centered design that you've been doing in the way that you show up in your own entrepreneurial design space, but the way that you've transformed all these brands. And we're really excited to have you and listen to your story. And perhaps we can get started, Peter, by just with your story of coming to the faith and finding the light.
Yeah. I'll be happy to share. Alhamdulillah. So, I mean, everyone has a story, right? Especially finding the light or embracing spiritual path and whatever we've kind of family or path we're kind of born into, or our parents, we all still need to make those decisions and go through an experience of deciding internally what life is about. I was someone that kind of discovered Islam and then embraced Islam. So for me, alhamdulillah, it was when I was a teenager, and I wasn't really thinking about anything to do with faith or religion or spiritual path. And growing up in Australia, and alhamdulillah, had a great childhood, good kind of journey. I really enjoyed school. I didn't have one sort of epic, dramatic, transformational moment where I can tell you. For me, it was a gradual process where actually I came to know a Muslim family that lived near me, actually in Sydney, in Australia. And I first kind of had the experience of getting to know individuals and then a family that they really, it struck me that, these are people that are, mashallah, professional, intelligent, they're loving family, they're thoughtful, but they pray and they believe in God. And this seemed a bit, anachronistic to me, like with the way I kind of grew up, the kind of pop culture I was around, the kind of influences I had, that anything kind of religious or faith-based or God sort of centered was very old school. It's kind of something to make fun of, like of an old style thing. And that was very Christian, I guess, secular Christian kind of environment that I sort of exposed to. And anyway, through this kind of initial interaction experience, it made me think that actually I don't really know anything as I got to know them. They prayed. They had this sense of inner calm and a sort of an approach to the world that had this sort of inner tranquility, or like a sakina that I might call it now. So it kind of got me thinking. It set me off on a bit of a path of discovery. And I started reading a little bit, started then going to some talks from different faiths and people of different kind of backgrounds. I kind of went through this 1 to 2 year journey of lots of little moments and little stories and things that happened in that time, places I visited. I remember going to a beautiful mosque that we have in Sydney, and I had never been to a mosque before, knowing there's like an inner fitra kind of call that you can sort of, your heart gravitates towards. And there was the simplicity and the kind of theology of Islam is just, it's so clear. Like, it's just so clear. And there's lots of layers to learn later and things to explore. Your relationship with Allah, your relationship with the divine, it's so simple and clear. And as I came to kind of know it, I just had about a 2 year kind of journey into that. I came to Ramadan, actually, I tried fasting as well. And I felt like this is something that, this is sort of one thing that these Muslims keep talking about and they're now doing every day. So I tried it and I also found that quite profound as well. And then it was getting towards the last 3 weeks of Ramadan, as then in the final 10 days. And it was actually on the 27th night that I erased Islam. It was quite a beautiful and powerful moment to come to that after that 2 year journey. There's lots I could share over probably a 2 hour journey of, doubts and decisions, challenges, especially the time it was around, September 11 as well, as the year after that. So there are lots of difficult things, cultural and identity challenges. But when the heart is feeling aligned and there's an inner kind of conviction, you have to follow that. And so I wouldn't say that I was very knowledgeable about the practice of Islam, but the simplicity and the alignment and that inner kind of knowing and that inner calm and presence, that consciousness that I felt was becoming more active. It was just kind of pulling me in that direction. And alhamdulillah, I embraced Islam.
Beautiful. Wow. One really important concept about this gradual movement to God, that everybody's journey doesn't have to be that boom and the blast. And then it's that journey that we have that takes consistent effort and progress, and that we're on that path. And that consistency, when I see the beauty of Peter's work and the impact he has made, and he shared in a very kind of relaxed tone, but the impact is huge when you are gradually, continuously closer to God. One really important thing he said was, when I just became aware that I didn't really know anything. And this is something that we share in our framework, the mindfulness framework, that awareness is like the first step. Just knowing that I don't know, I've lost. So this spiritual regulation that we're talking about, just that awareness, it helped him come back, right? Because a lot of us live on autopilot. We're just not aware that we're lost. And there is a few other keywords they took away, that sitting and reflecting on things. He's talked about awareness and reflection. And a lot of times we don't reflect and ponder and meditate and contemplate. I think we have really lost this art as an ummah, that we forgot to meditate and reflect on the names of Allah, or reflect on our life. Beautiful practice like tafakkur or tadabbur, or beautiful practice like muraqabah or muhasabah.
MashaAllah. I think what really resonated with me was the fact that there is a void that we all have, right? And that void made you search for it, for some light, and search for serenity. And what was very impactful in your story is seeing an average Muslim family that depicted that serenity, they depicted that closeness to Allah. And I feel that that is such a reminder for us as Muslims. As you beautifully said, it's like honey. As you tasted the sweetness of their sakina, of their devotion, then it intrigued you. And finding that alignment and having it transform you little by little, I think is incredible, mashallah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. No, I appreciate you both. There's different doors and openings that people have on their journey. For me, there's a number of people, individuals, these interactions, and people that were just so thoughtful and interested. When someone is just there smiling and they're really interested in you and they want to share, they want to answer your questions and have such good manners and akhlaq and host you and feed you, it warms the heart. It's so simple things. So you're really right about those manners. And I just felt that, God sent this, amazing mix of people to me in that time over a couple of years. And then since then, of course, many years, alhamdulillah. And I think that it was something special about Ramadan, the barakah of Ramadan as well, that had some effect, I'm quite sure.
Absolutely. I think we are in such a heightened spiritual state. And by you fasting, by you being in the community, it resonated with you and you felt the spirituality and it opened your heart, subhanAllah. And the fact that it happened on the 27th, how powerful that it's exponentially weighing heavier on your scale, mashallah.
Yeah, Allah's generous. I think also it's this gradual awareness of gratitude. And when you appreciate how fortunate you are and the incredible blessings, your health and your shelter, safety, opportunities, and education and blessings of good parents. In my teen years, I wasn't reflecting or appreciating that as much as I started to do it when I embraced Islam. That's when the next chapter started.
And amana is translated into trust for the non-Arabic speaking audience, and seeing everything we're given as a trust and being responsible to use it.
I want to share his heart-centered design. I was so moved. So this is a beautiful, this shows the ihsan and the beauty of what Peter does. When you look at this, you just feel this tranquility and this beauty in this, the way that he's explaining the principles, right? And I was really amazed by a couple of things here. that I don't see normally in everybody's principles. I mean, these are things that are important to us as Muslims, but I don't see them like one of the main core principles. And one of the things I asked Peter earlier in the past, and I would like to ask again in this audience, that there is a principle here that you have put rida, which is contentment. And then you just mentioned this concept of trust and amana, right? How are they related to your journey and your understanding of how it transformed who you are and the way that you want to bring transformation to the Ummah?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, great question. And so these words and concepts become very familiar to Muslims that are maybe learning in lessons. I guess in the first 3 years of me exploring Islam, I would hear words like barakah, or you'd learn about niyyah very quickly and the importance of intentionality that I hadn't really framed in the way that I did until I became Muslim, and the importance of niyyah and being very conscious of your intentionality in whatever it is you're doing. And it could be stepping into a building, or taking a sip of water, or embarking on a journey, or starting a business, or whatever it might be. And then doing that with a God consciousness, you bring a spiritual perspective to increasingly more and more decisions that you make daily, and you work towards that state of remembrance. Not saying that I did or do as much as I would like to or strive towards. What I had done in building the design practice, alhamdulillah, over the years is kind of look at these paths of, okay, I'm learning about design and how we help people develop their brands or products and ideas, and always in a state of learning. In parallel to that, I was learning these, beautiful, timeless spiritual concepts and words that many Muslims know, and they're universal. They're in every tradition and culture, but we have a particular, I guess, framing and definitions of things like what barakah means. So one of my favorites you mentioned there is rida, and this became quite powerful concepts, especially if you're in the path of entrepreneurship, or trying to build a product, or you're trying to grow and nurture something over time. Sometimes things do, alhamdulillah, work out, and there's openings and things, there's success, and you feel grateful and gratitude for that. Oftentimes they don't, or at least not the first couple of times, and there's a lot of frustration. I was looking at kind of how do I practically apply these words I was learning about, and in trying to build or, try things out, creatively, you really need to have this rida of like, alhamdulillah, things worked out great and that's successful. But also, alhamdulillah, things didn't work out, and there's a wisdom behind that. It's a path to growth and learning. So that concept, now, alhamdulillah, people come and ask me about, maybe they're trying to launch their idea or their product. And so this set of words and principles is just, some that I think are helpful to think about and actively bring the very start of your project or your journey, so that you go in with this mindset of like, okay, I'm going to try and be in this state of surrender and contentment, whichever way things go, and maintain that kind of long term.
Mashallah, Rida, I think it encapsulates how we need to live our life, because when we have Rida, then our behavior is going to be modified. We will look for gratitude and appreciation within each experience and each relationship, rather than feeling that there is something missing. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, has chosen whatever we experience. And those, it's like those bitter injections, or the painful injections, are actually a way of transforming us. And so that I feel to have psychological tranquility is such an important aspect, seeing Allah's wisdom and accepting the qadr.
It's a profound mindset, and the deeper we go into the understanding of it and practice of it, and reminding ourselves that when we're not in that sort of state. I asked one of my teachers about rida, and he explained it. I'm paraphrasing it. It's like, imagine being in a state of contentment for every decision that's ever happened in human history, and in the future, every decision that will ever happen in human history, ever, well beyond your own life and your own journey, is being in that same state of just, that's a high maqam, a high station to get to that. But we should strive for that.
I think a lot of people live in a state of either dwelling and regretting the past, or anxious about the future. And that means that they are constantly in turmoil. So when you have that mindset of, wow, I do accept everything that happened, every decision that was made, every breakup, every loss. And when you embrace that, then you really let go of these emotions that can really shackle us.
Yeah. It's such a God-centered and heart-centered way to live.
Yeah.
And it takes work.
There's a lot of focus on rituals, on actions, on gaining the knowledge, but that knowledge is not transformative unless we do the inner work and really reflect on our behavior and transform it, because the knowledge alone doesn't do it.
In the context of people asking me about if they're trying to build something or grow a company or those kind of things. And so I'm distilling little things that I've learned and definitely mistakes I've made and things, not to do. I didn't find Islam because of the practices and the kind of, I guess, the outward and the costumes of what, as someone has put it, a costume of over your heart. Like, although there's many beautiful things in that, in the cultures and traditions I have a great love for different Muslim cultures. But it's that inner state. It's timeless, it's timeless. And that's why I might be in Australia or someone might be in, whatever place, that it's a timeless, especially now, a time of like, a lot of distraction. And so this whole effort here is like, how do we design for remembrance? How do we kind of optimize what we're doing and, on that path of being in that state of contentment, working towards that actively in something that we're trying to build as well.
Yeah, that's another concept we can talk for a long time, design for remembrance. How do we design our life so that we can become a source of remembrance? They say that one of the signs of the walis, awliya of Allah, is that they remind you, when you see them, they remind you of Allah. How do we live our lives in a way that we become a source of remembrance? Just our smile and our presence, like the Prophet said. So it's beautiful. And it's just only fitting that Peter said that just the peacefulness of that family inspired him, and then eventually how it transformed his life and journey to come to this place of using that one specific thing about the condition of the heart, the state of the heart, the rida, as one of the principles. And I wonder how to use this trait more as we do this Ramadan, as we try to transform ourselves. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That mindfulness of Allah, being aware and conscious of Allah, one of those qualities is being in complete contentment and reliance on Allah. Like so many heartbreaks, so much difficulty can be solved just by this one concept. And I think I shared with Peter earlier that, in one of my work, I came across this equation that sufferings in life is equal to pain plus rejection, pain plus resistance. The more you resist the pain, the more your suffering increases.
Absolutely. I think when we're talking about the acceptance, because when we are in a state of why me, questioning what has happened, questioning the pain that we are suffering, we get stuck. It's once you have that radical acceptance, once you know this is coming from Allah, that's when you're able to open up your heart and your mind to those experiences. But I'd love to hear what, Peter, you would have to say about that.
Yeah, we all go through seasons of life. So if you have a family, you have children, there's all kinds of dynamics that you're all of a sudden managing and learning. But so much is in our tradition that is really timeless wisdom that, going back to what you were saying, Wadud, is like, how do you take that concept rather than sort of maybe the packaging of Islam, which, let's be real, has a lot of brand issues, the way people might kind of first think about it, unfortunately. If you said the word baraka or rida or sakina to many, many people, they would never heard of it. They don't bring an association to it. And it gives you, or even words like Ar-Rahman, Al-Khaliq, Al-Musawwar, Al-Latif, like these are, when I first heard these, I had no association with them. So as I kind of read them through a fresh lens with no pop culture, I was open to listening to them. So I think a great opportunity for us is like I genuinely feel that, alhamdulillah, our path, our spiritual practice in Islam is just so relevant and helpful to people today, in our very digital world. What we've been gifted in our lives, even if we haven't fully embraced or understood it. And I definitely am at like level one of many, many levels of understanding. these concepts of Rida and Sakina.
Just like, okay, yeah, I was just thinking that here we are sitting together, three of us. Peter sitting here with his heart-centered design. I'm sitting here trying to build this beautiful community of content coaching community. Where also, Sister Holly, you've been doing beautiful work for decades now, serving the Muslim community, and you, both of you, have been my role models.
Mhm.
And as I think about this, who are we to talk about this beautiful concepts, prophetic concepts? I'm like, I think about me, like I'm a nobody. And I'm sitting here talking about this beautiful concept, this heavenly concept. And I realize that we're only elevated to this platform because we attached ourselves to these beautiful things.
Mhm.
We're seeking these things. We're on the journey to keep seeking God, even though we were weak and broken and imperfect and had so many flaws of our own. And one of the things about people that want transformation is take time to seek it, take time to reflect on it, take time to find teachers and environments and knowledge that can transform you. If you stay on the path long enough, God will open it up for you.
Mhm.
الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Allah will open ways for you if you keep seeking it. And I think that's the beauty of three of us being here, that we had to sacrifice certain things, give up certain things, and be on this path and make a resolution. We're going to do this. We're going to try to get there. And we struggled along the way. But because we are on this path, Allah is helping us, giving us those openings despite our failures and setbacks. So if you want to get to your best potential this Ramadan and beyond, make that intention, make that visualization where you want to go. Take and stay consistent on that path and opening.
I would agree completely in having the intention. And one of the things is when you're seeking it and sincerely praying for it, I think it was very transformative when I did it was my first Umrah. And I just stood by the Kaaba, and it was a very emotional moment when I said, Ya Allah, use me in your service. Use me in your service. And when we are sincere like that, then Allah opens up so many pathways and puts people in our path and lightens the journey for us. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. I'm just enjoying listening to you both. We have so much to learn. We're at level one, if that, of so many stations of understanding and experience that, we hope is ahead. One of my teachers, actually who passed away, like Hamu, said, look, Peter, if you met yourself on the street from 10 years ago, could you still relate? What would you relate? Meaning if you bumped into yourself, the 10-year earlier version. Now, for me, as someone that kind of, embraced Islam, I took that very seriously because I didn't ever want to be in a position where I'm sort of like, oh, I'm in this elevated, elite kind of spiritual station now. I think being a part of that path is just trying to embody what we're learning and then trying to communicate that and trying to share these beautiful things through our character and through our interaction and try to embody these principles. And if people ask more about it, great, we can help share or, refer them to people. But just knowing as well that it is that consistent journey over time. And, all of us, we felt this incredible blessings and Ahmad to open up over time. I think just reminding each other and keeping good company as well, having the right sahaba of people that are on this sort of long-term path of seeking, that's been tremendously helpful for me as well.
Absolutely.
I want Peter to have the final comment here on how to have a transformational Ramadan, how to become a better version of yourself, become more versus doing more, not just do more, which we would, inshallah, we will increase the quantity, but how to become and come out as a better version of yourself.
I think firstly, tuning into programs like this with knowledgeable teachers like yourselves who really, I think, understand, and you're helping people navigate the issues of the age, with this understanding of how to articulate and understanding the culture and the challenges and, the immediate things that people are facing daily. But you bring this timeless spiritual perspective with these concepts. I think that's a great way to start trying to spend Ramadan is in that, with having the mindset to learn. But if I was going to pick one word, for example, I think that's a nice concept, especially now. I would say hope. I would say hope because there's been a lot of gloominess. There's honestly, a lot of things that are just hard to reconcile. So I think being people of hope, and being around people that understand that, embrace that, and bring us that perspective, remind us that there is a hikmah, despite the difficulty of our human lens perceiving it. Let's have a Ramadan of hope, for each other and for our brothers and sisters around the world and for our next generation, because we have the obligation as well. It's a big amanah to take the knowledge we have and make sure that our young people are also feeling positive and having a place in the world, to be people of healing, people of hope, inshallah.
That's such a powerful thing to reflect on. And I always say that as a mu'min, we have no choice but to be optimistic. So I'm so glad that you brought that focus. And we are bleeding. We are heartbroken. We are totally devastated by what's happening in Gaza and what our brothers and sisters have been going through.
I really felt that. And it's the time in Ramadan to go back to those sources and go back to this clarity of understanding to give us that, that certainty. And that was beautifully shared, we're people of hope and we're people that embody that and contribute in whichever ways we can, inshallah, to creating that hope.
Inshallah, inshallah. And have you been inspired by the way people they've lost everything? They've lost everything. It hits you really hard when it's someone close to you and you see the struggle, you see the pain and the suffering. And these are individuals who lose, a dozen family members at once. They lose their home, they lose their businesses, their way of their livelihood. And how have you been inspired by how they're handling these losses?
There's a lot of feelings, that we're all navigating. I invited one of my teachers who kindly came and gave a really profound, kind of led a conversation around exactly what you're sharing is like the unseen realities. We see this incredible resilience and this incredible spirit and this incredible spiritual strength that, I can't imagine being tested like that. And yet, and it's through that people, from what I can understand anecdotally around the world, are recognizing that. One of my friends in Australia, he helps people who are interested in Islam. He had 50 people embrace Islam the weeks after because, the way he shared is because it's, tremendous interest in how are these people maintaining this. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack. But I appreciate what you shared.
Jazakallah khairan.
A beautiful reflection, beautiful hearing from both of you. Peter, do you want to wrap this up with a short prayer if you'd like?
May I interject? I'm sorry, because I have you here. It's a very critical question I want to ask, and I apologize because I feel that many people may not know the impressive clientele that you have. And from, mashallah, the United Nations, Palmolive, the Saudi royal family. There's a long list.
I have Hale, Benani, famous, mashallah.
Mashallah. But it's just such an impressive list of organizations and governments that you have worked for. And I'm just wondering, how do you stay balanced with you have the commercial success, which usually people are not able to handle success, whether it's fame or wealth. How do you balance that? And how do you stay grounded in the midst of, mashallah, the success and the people that you work with?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Allah is very generous. And in the line of work that I do, I create ni'mah for creating further work. But there's so much invisible work that is, mountains behind mountains more weighty in impact that it's not Instagrammable, right? It's the aunties in the masjid. It's the community leaders that have to deal with all kind of trials and fitna and stuff to make, a masjid function or to run a school. I appreciate what you're saying, but I know that we all Muslim professionals or parents that are like full-time parents have very similar challenges. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with a really supportive family. There's a strong alignment in how we're trying to raise our children, how we're trying to navigate our way in this very hyper digital modern world.
Right.
Having great sahaba and teachers and mentors. And there's definitely been times I've been very out of balance, but you have friends to sort of, and teachers to kind of, try to keep you aligned, and good role models as well. So it's all of those things. It's something that it's sort of never finished where you're in that station of, I'm balanced now. Like, I
Right.
don't think so. Maybe you have that at a moment. It's like happiness is a temporary emotion, but rida is a concept that you can live by. So, inshallah, we strive for that balance. Appreciate the question and the kind words. Alhamdulillah.
Of course. I love what you said about that. It's not like you can achieve it. Check. Okay. I have reached the balance, or I'm self-actualized. That is a constant effort. And Brother Wadud, would you like to end this with a reflection?
Alhamdulillah, there's a lot to really reflect on. And I really appreciate how he brought out the aunties in the masjid, being, at the center of many of these communities that started from infancy in Dallas, to see them grow, multiple masajid schools,
MashaAllah.
hardwick, from the very infancy, seeing them work where they have come, and the sacrifices of so many people whose name would never be known. It's beautiful to see and even learn from those, the humility of these people as well. So I really appreciate that you mentioned that. Alhamdulillah. Allah bless you both. Inshallah, may Allah grant us the tools and the opening to continue to rise and go towards our best self. But, the important thing to know that we cannot always be our best. We can always have the balance, like Peter just mentioned. It's a really important point, that don't give up hope when you are not having a good day, or where you're not operating at your best self, because those moments will happen. A believer fluctuates sometimes.
Yes.
But just keep coming back.
Yes.
Keep coming back, and Allah will make up for the loss, inshallah, if you keep coming back.
I have a great analogy for that. So I love using analogies to depict what I'm explaining especially with my clients. It's like, if you're swerving off the road when you're driving, what do? If you swerve off, you swerve right back on. And so a lot of times in life, we may, whether it's with sins, whether it's with hopelessness, we swerve off, but then we have to swerve right back on. And not aiming for perfection. I had a client just recently really struggle with the fact that because they don't experience khushu in their prayer, they were really critical of themselves, and they really questioned their beliefs. And I said, if Muslims felt like they don't have khushu, then they're no longer like a good Muslim, then we would all be in trouble, right? So we are constantly working on ourselves and understanding that this is a process. It is a process. And I love how both of you brought that into attention, because when we strive for perfection, then we're always we're irritated and we have anxiety, because perfection doesn't